Nashville Predators can't end the regular season on a high note, falling 4-2 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. What went wrong in this game and some history for the Nashville Predators on today's Locked on Predators podcast.
Your Locked on Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
That music is so uplifting.
Really catchy little tune.
It really does put me in a better mood after an absolutely god-awful hockey game. Hi, everybody. This is the Locked on Predators podcast. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we want to start out with a special shout out to our loyal Locked on Pred heads out there, the everydayers who turn into every single show. We love you guys, and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio.
Big show today. We will be recapping the last regular season game for the Nashville Predators this year, a 4-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins that felt like three different hockey games over the course of a single hockey game. We'll also talk some history made from this game and where this loss leaves the Predators in the playoff picture going into the last 3 days of the NHL regular season. Also notes on Roman Josi and Andrew Brunette's Jack Adams chances. All coming up on today's episode of the show. First, though, do want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Again, that's $150 win or lose. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Ann, let's start with the game last night in Pittsburgh at whatever the Penguins call their home arena now.
It's officially PPG Paints Arena. So catchy.
I'm used to calling it the Igloo.
I'm used to calling it the seventh circle of hell, but you know, potato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
that place they play.
Yeah, not touching that one with Penguins fans listening in. This was a tricky game for the Nashville Predators. Did not start well at all. Speaking of seven circles of hell, what was that first period? Penguins outshot the Preds 20-5 in the first period. 4 pucks got behind Yosi Saros into the net. Luckily, 2 of them counted. Thanks to instant replay from upstairs, wiping 2 off the board. There's your Colton Sisson's revenge game, folks. Penguins did go up 2-0, though, early in the game. Predators battled back in the second. I think a really good second period. And for the Nashville Predators, they really started fighting back. We had goals from Gustav Nyquist and Filip Forsberg, ending the season with 48 goals on the year, a Predators record. Riley Smith, though, did keep the Penguins ahead 3-2. And then, Ann, it felt like momentum kind of shifted back Pittsburgh's way in the third period. Nashville came out just a little bit flat, couldn't hold the momentum, couldn't come back into it. Emil Bemstrom, who, according to Willie Donick and Chris Mason, had a hat trick against the Preds at some point in his career. So
okay, I blocked that out.
Good for him. First time hearing of his name, but shout out to him. He put the Penguins ahead 4-2. That was the final score on this game. And what is your one word to describe last night's game?
My personal one word is ruined family reunion, because I'm not going to the family reunion now because, you know, I'm from Northwestern Pennsylvania. Love my family, love my extended family, but bless, they are insufferable Penguins fans. So can't go home now. My actual one word, and I don't know that there is a technical name for this, and maybe you do. Do you watch diving at all?
Like diving, the Olympic sport?
Yeah, like the Olympic sport, diving.
During the Olympics, yeah.
Okay. as logic would have it.
Yeah.
So on the diving board, not the platforms, but
yeah.
on the diving boards.
I mean, I'm not watching like CNBC at 11 o'clock on a Friday night for like the Pan American Championships, but I'll watch it when the Olympics are on.
Every so often, you can catch a random diving competition. But when you're watching diving, in the Olympics or the Pan American Games, as you mentioned, there's like a little wheel next to the diving board that the divers can kind of roll it, and it affects like the amount of bounce in the diving board. And I feel like the Predators messed with the diving board wheel, because you want to jump into the playoffs a certain way. You want like a really good entry. Like, when you dive, you want like that clean entry into the water. You want no splash. The Nashville Predators tinkered with the diving board wheel, and they didn't get a very good bounce. And I'm afraid that there's a little splash as they head into the postseason. This was not the game that you really wanted necessarily to play. There were bits of this game that were the game you want to play in your last game of the regular season in that second period, but they just didn't play 60 minutes of hockey. And you wanted to see the Predators use these last couple of games where they already had the postseason locked up to really perfect some things. And we didn't see that. We didn't see it against Columbus. And I don't think, we certainly didn't see 60 minutes of it against the Penguins. So for me, my one word is that weird diving board wheel, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Pan American Games. Let's go.
Pan American. Yeah, this today's episode is brought to you by the Pan American Games.
We'll be covering those when they come around next.
Yeah, Locked on Pan America coming to a podcast near you.
Let's go.
And I'm also going to stick with the water for this theme, and my one word is Survivor Water Challenge. I don't know what it's actually called, but you know the TV show Survivor, right?
I do, yes.
Well, for like years and years and years, they've had this same challenge, which looks like something out of the movie Saw. So they have like contestants hanging under a grate that's like on top of the water. Mm-hmm. You have to stay under the grate for the duration of the challenge. As tide comes in, the water levels rise. So eventually you just kind of have to hold on and put your mouth kind of through the grate. You see all kinds of contestants try to do like the tube thing where they're like creating like a makeshift snorkel. You see like hand shaking and everything. It is basically like, it is basically like a psychological mind blank. That is basically just kind of, the tide is coming in, it's coming in. It's just how mentally tough are you going to be to find a way to survive that high tide? Or are you going to break? Are you going to tap out early? Or are you going to have to take yourself out? That's what this game felt like tonight. Only the Nashville Predators didn't wait for high tide to go past. It seems like they just kind of checked out a little bit early. For this Nashville Predators, we talked about this in our preview yesterday, and we knew this was going to be the game in which the Pittsburgh Penguins had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, or realistically keep their playoff hopes alive. Right. We knew they were going to come out, throw everything they had at the Nashville Predators. They were going to treat this like Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're down a goal. They're going to play like that for 60 minutes. They're just going to be relentless. And our question was, hey, the Predators have this wrapped up. How much of that are they going to be able to withstand? How much will they be able to counterpunch? And especially early, it just felt like they were just kind of waiting for the tide to roll over. They were just trying to keep their heads above water, get any gasp of air. But that Pittsburgh pressure was just so unrelenting. And finally, it seemed like, maybe the Nashville Predators got an extra couple of breaths in there. That second period, they came out so strong. Some good goals there. Good play from Gustav Nyquist, just kind of unrelenting, staying in front of the net, getting the loose rebound there. A good goal from Filip Forsberg, his team record 48th of the season. It seemed like the Nashville Predators had got a breath of fresh air, and then the third period comes. And, the water just kept, new waves just kind of kept going over the Preds' face, and they had to tap out. So it just seemed like the Pittsburgh Penguins, kind of treated this game as more of a must win than Nashville did, which they should have because it was.
Right.
You just maybe wish the Nashville Predators had stood up to the challenge a little bit more.
It's interesting to watch teams handle these last couple games in the regular season because you look at Pittsburgh, like you said, I mean, fighting for their playoff hope. You have Nashville that's locked up a spot, still something to play for. We're going to talk about the whole situation with the wild card one spot coming up. But then you also look at some of these other teams that Nashville has faced. You're looking at Chicago, you're looking at Columbus, these teams that really have nothing to play for and nothing to lose. And it's almost like those teams play spoiler with more passion than maybe a team like Nashville that's got a spot wrapped up does, as compared to a team still fighting to get in. So I think that the mental gymnastics of these last 3, 4, 5 games for all of the different teams in the NHL are fascinating to me. You would think, the teams that aren't in it, have no chance of getting in it, are just going to kind of roll over and just coast through the rest of the season. And they seem to come in with some fire. And it was interesting to see Nashville really start this game without that fire because, like we said, you have a dog still in the fight. Like there's still something for Nashville to play for. So, we're going to have to now wait and see. It's out of Nashville's hands. So we're going to have to wait and see where the chips fall the rest of this regular season, these last couple of days. Woof.
Yeah. And there's a possibility, and for this to maybe be a game in which you look at and say, that's a missed opportunity. We'll talk about those scenarios coming up, plus more from this game, including some history made, a scare for Roman Josi as he gets a NHL honor, and more in the scope of the Nashville Predators snooze-sphere circle of Preds. I don't know. More stuff coming up in just 1 second. First, though, I want to mention today's episode once again is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, this is the peak time to be a sports fan. Not only do you have playoffs coming up for both the NHL and the NBA, you got baseball in full swing. You just had the WNBA draft last night. We just had the Masters. So many more great events coming up. Kentucky Derby right around the corner. Whatever you are wanting to watch, FanDuel is your place to get in on the action and bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Again, that's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Ann, we are talking about the Predators' 4-2 loss in the regular season finale last night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's look at where this leaves the Nashville Predators now, because they just needed 1 point. Just 1 point to not only get to 100 points for the first time since 2019, but also to lock in the wild card 1 spot, which is a all-important spot at the moment for a number of different reasons.
Yes.
They couldn't do it, and now their fate is in another team's hands. You have the Vegas Golden Knights, who can pass the Predators with wins in their last 2 games. They have 2 games remaining, 96 points. Preds sit at 99. Both of those games are pretty easy. And
you couldn't drum up a better last 2 games if you were Vegas. You couldn't pick 2 better teams.
A home game against Chicago and a home game against Anaheim to end the season for Vegas. You also have LA still in the picture, who played last night, but this is being recorded before that game finished, so we don't know how that turned out. But again, easy schedule for them. And so, I mean, it's a point now where you just kind of have to sit back, watch, and maybe hope some things shake out to where you get a favorable first-round matchup. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe you look back in this game as that Coyotes loss from 2 years ago, where you got bumped down from playing a weaker Calgary team to playing the team that's going to go on to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this Penguins loss could come back to haunt the Nashville Predators, because ideally, if you're looking at kind of where things stand now, if you stay in the wild card one spot, you're going to play Vancouver. Not that Vancouver's a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like Vancouver and Nashville are it's a more favorable matchup for Nashville, because the alternative would be playing right now the Dallas Stars. And I can't think of a team that I would want to play less right now than the Dallas Stars. And it's funny because several weeks ago, I said, you know what, I would take the Dallas Stars. I had said, oh, no, I feel like Nashville would match up well against the Dallas Stars. Well, they've been on a tear. Nobody wants to see the Matt Duchene, don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me revenge tour.
Yeah.
So, you really wanted to, I think Nashville really wants to hold on to that. I would even prefer, even if Edmonton somehow leapfrogs Vancouver, which they could do, I would still rather play Edmonton than Dallas at this point. So, and right now, Nashville just has to sit and wait. So it's, there's potential for regret. You also have now delayed kind of your preparation because you can't guarantee who you're going to play at this point. So it's just, it's discouraged. It's a little bit disappointing. It's disappointing. But again, Andrew Brunette says we'll play whoever you give us. Well, yes, we will.
Yeah, you will. You would just rather play a team that is 5-5 in their last 10 games to end the regular season,
right?
Than the team that might have gone on an epic heater to get to the President's Trophy spot, which Dallas is 1 point away from leapfrogging the Rangers right now for that. Right. So, I mean, it's tough that the Nashville Predators couldn't. And that's the other thing, Ann. Remember, we talk about this kind of being like the Predators' first playoff game because there was something to play for. Not as much as Pittsburgh, granted, but, you did have an opportunity to, kind of go out and get a big sort of season-defining win, something to really help you out, and you could not bring your A game in order to do that. And that is a little bit concerning from the Nashville Predators, but you know what? They are going to have, at least 3 days off while everybody else is still playing. They're going to have a chance to sit back, relax, maybe prep for a couple of different teams, and just see how the cards fall. But it's going to be a tough first-round matchup either way for the Nashville Predators. Speaking of tough, Ann, we have a new Nashville Predators record that has nothing to do with Filip Forsberg scoring 48 goals this year, but Jeremy Lauzon, he did it.
NHL record, baby.
383 hits this season. He had 9 tonight against the Pittsburgh Penguins, one of which I think was technically credited to him for a hit, even though he kind of landed on his butt and then in the goal and then against the boards. But 383 hits this year. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think this is really incredible and something, I know hits is maybe not something that most people pay much attention to, but I really think you have to give him kudos for not just the quantity, but for the quality of the hits and the quality of Jeremy Lauzon's play, because Jeremy Lauzon has set this NHL record, but not done it in the wrong way. He has not got 383 hits and cost Nashville anything. On the broadcast, they said that he has actually drawn more penalties than he's committed this season. And, Lauzon, you can say hits don't matter, but they really do. The way that Jeremy Lauzon is playing his game, he's playing better defensively. He's closing gaps faster. You also, at some point, you become aware that you're coming down the side where the guy with the most hits in the NHL is playing. And I think it makes players think, They're going up against a guy who is not afraid to hit. And again, like I said, these have all been really good hits for the most part. So for me, I think this is we're celebrating such a great player who has elevated his game across the board. So I was super pumped. And I will tell you, literally, I was refreshing the box score, counting his hits through the Pittsburgh game, because I'm like, come on, baby, two more. And I thought, okay, surely they will not let this game end without Lauzon getting that record, because he was so close. So excited that he got that. And like I said, well-deserved, because he did the work, but he also did the work well.
Yeah. And who among us hasn't dreamed of hitting 383 people at work over the course of a fiscal year? So thank you. Thank you, Jeremy Lauzon, for living every working adult's dream here.
It is a middle-aged woman's dream job. What Jeremy Lauzon did, we just at middle age have so much anger. I would love to get paid to hit people 383 times.
Who wouldn't? There was a scary moment in this game, though, and it revolved around Roman Josi. The same day he gets a good honor from the NHL. We'll talk about that. Plus, what experts are saying about Andrew Brunette's Jack Adams chances. All coming up in just 1 second.
First, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Sleeper. Even as this regular season for the Predators wraps up, we want to remind you that you still have a chance to win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether players like McKinnon, Eichel, Bedard, or McDavid are going to record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you must correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. That's right, Preds fans, you can win 100 times your cash playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use our promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you're going to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availabilities.
All right, and big honor for Roman Josi before the game started. The NHL's second star of the week. So kudos to him. And then we almost had the most devastating Roman Josi thing happen. Second period, this was the sequence that led to the Penguins' third goal, by the way. Penguins get a slap shot from the point, deflects in front, goes off, hits Roman Josi somewhere in the upper body. Looked like it was the arm. Josi went down, holding his arm, was on the ice for a second, got up, laboring. Penguins scored on that play. Josi skated to the bench, invisible plane, clutching his arm. Did come back, maybe missed one shift by the end of it, if he even missed any at all. He was back pretty quick, when you saw Roman Josi get hit up high and then you see him skating to the bench, kind of clutching a dead arm like that. Oh, that is nightmare fuel for the Nashville Predators fan base right then and there.
I mean, I heard the sound of toilets flushing the Nashville Predators playoff hopes right down the tube when I saw Roman Josi like that, because I was like, this is one of a couple of players you just can't even go into the postseason without. Can you imagine? I mean, what a horrible scenario that would be for Nashville to lose Roman Josi in a game like that. Now, fortunately, several days off, lots of days of rest. So if it's a bruise or whatever, like you said, he came back into the game, so he's going to be hopefully good to go, come postseason time. But literally nightmare scenario. That is the thing that horror movies are made of, is Roman Josi clutching his arm in the last game of the regular season when they've made it into the postseason.
Yeah, and we just see so many plays like that wind up in, broken arm, broken rib.
Yeah.
broken collarbone, hand fracture. Like, we've seen good players sidelined a while with injuries like that. Even if you tough it out, even if you do the hockey, um, tough it out and kind of play through the pain thing, that's still a hard injury for a scorer / playmaker like Yosi to recover from. So it doesn't sound like it's anything serious. Again, Roman Josi played the rest of the game after that. We'll just kind of be glued to Twitter over the next 3 days just to make sure there's nothing extra at that, because that would be an absolutely devastating loss going into the playoffs. And I think it would also, kind of change the perception of whether or not the Preds can contend or be a dark horse.
100%. I think if you were to lose Yosi or Forsberg, I think it would dramatically change expectations for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah. Let's talk about Andrew Brunette, who now has 82 games under his belt as head coach of the Nashville Predators, a team that wasn't supposed to score a whole heck of a lot this year, considering they got rid of, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I think, like a grand total of 83 goals from that 2022 team. And like 60 something from last year from the trade deadline on. So a lot of people thought this is going to be an interesting Nashville Predators team. Andrew Brunette came in with his system, not only helped the Predators get back into the playoffs, but made this the most prolific offensive team in the history of the Nashville Predators franchise. Tied for the most goals in a season collectively as a team with that, I believe 2006. Was it 2006 or 2007?
I think it was 2006, but I'm saying that, and now I'm second guessing myself.
I think it was the first Korea year, if I remember correctly, because Korea had like 86 points and Steve Sullivan had some ungodly number. I think that's right. But anyway, long story short, Andrew Brunette helping the Predators exceed expectations and kind of fix a very stagnant offense very, very fast. So where does that leave him in contention for the Jack Adams? We'll tell you what the NHL.com writers think. They put out their trophy tracker, which is basically kind of like a series of, hey, if the season ended right now, here's who we would vote for the awards. And Andrew Brunette finishing second on the list behind his old buddy Rick Tocchet.
Yeah, I really like this poll. And what's interesting, I went back through to just see what was the conversation like preseason and midseason. Preseason picks. Okay, these preseason picks kind of make me giggle. You do the best you can. I understand that. But like Buffalo Sabres coach Mike Sullivan, Paul Maurice. Okay, I'll give you that one. Bless Mike Babcock. Yeah, that didn't pan out preseason. That was not a great preseason pick. But even midseason, now you're starting to hear about Vancouver's coach, Rick Bowness from Winnipeg, John Tortorella of the Flyers, Peter Laviolette, the Rangers still, and this was like late January. These were the midseason picks in January. Still no chatter about Andrew Brunette. And then I think when this team finally got it and went on that point streak, you just can't ignore what Andrew Brunette has done in his first year. And I think that he has a lot going for him to be a part of this conversation. You have somebody who had to come in and completely overhaul a franchise's system and update it. He had to be very patient. I mean, let's face it, this was a team that didn't get it for a long time. And I think a coach could have tried to pivot or modify or said, we're not going to get it this year. So what can we do this year? He just stuck with it. Like, oh my gosh, the patience of a saint for this, piece together this new roster. I really think that Andrew Brunette has done exactly what the Jack Adams is defined as. They say it's who has contributed the most to his team's success. I don't know how you can say Andrew Brunette isn't a top three.
Yeah. I think Rick Tocchet did a phenomenal coaching job of finally getting those young Vancouver Canucks players to play well together and finally find a way to turn them into the juggernaut that I think everybody in NHL thought they can be. To me, Andrew Brunette did the best job of taking a roster and squeezing the most possible, I guess, output that you could possibly get from them. You had a lot of people who played above what they've typically played in the NHL before. You've had players like Gustav Nyquist at 35 years old or 34 years old having a career best season, getting past 70 points this year. You've had guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Ryan McDonough having their best statistical seasons in years. And to top it all off, you have Filip Forsberg and Roman Josi, the two guys that have been the focal point of your team, at least in terms of skaters. They had phenomenal seasons as well. So it just seems like Andrew Brunette, out of all the coaches in the NHL, did the best out of getting the maximum amount possible with the roster that he had. And for that, maybe that is where you consider Andrew Brunette as maybe somebody who maybe should surpass Rick Tocchet on the list. But then again, both guys, phenomenal coaching jobs this year. Sure. Either one would absolutely deserve it. Yeah. More to get to this week on the Locked On Predators podcast. Of course, we will still be looking at where the Predators are in the playoff standings right now. We also have a mailbag out. So if you guys have questions about the Nashville Predators, either how the season's gone so far or looking ahead to the playoffs, we will have that for you coming up this week on the Locked On Predators podcast. And also, we will take a look at some of the Preds' possible playoff opponents. All of that coming up on the show this week. Until we get there, though, thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.